local election headquarters. We could find out at any moment, though it's likely going to be tomorrow, who Vice President Kamala Harris has picked as her running mate. Harris spending the weekend in Washington interviewing some of the top candidates. That list includes Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, U.S. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Recent polls showing Harris now running better against Trump in those key states than Biden.
We have seen real momentum for Vice President Harris, and it is transferring into the places where the election is most likely to be decided. This is where Joe Biden stood at the day he dropped out. You see momentum for Harris in every single one of the major battleground states, including the big three: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Vice President Harris expected to appear at a campaign event in Philadelphia tomorrow with her running mate. Let's go a little bit deeper on the VP sweepstakes, if you will. Joining us now to break down who's most in the mix and the impact on the race, Utica University political science professor Luke Perry. Luke, always good to see you. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So who, in your opinion, and everybody is trying to kind of read tea leaves on this, would you say are the top couple of VP picks, and why might they be at the top and help the ticket?
I think we've narrowed things down from approximately 6 to 8 candidates to looks like potentially 2 finalists. Of course, we don't know for sure. This is just based on reporting. But that would include Mark Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, and Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. As their titles imply, both of these people bring executive experience, which is something that Harris is lacking and is helpful in the VP role, and of course the presidency role if they ever get to that. And obviously, I think both being white, being male, I think is designed to help appeal to those demographics where Harris might be less strong.
Think with Pennsylvania being such a battleground, a little bit more, Minnesota seems slightly safer, that Shapiro might have a slight edge there, or we're just kind of really picking tiny little pieces here of who's better, who's not?
No, I think that's a great question. Conventional wisdom would suggest that running mates should complement the ticket geographically in some way. We know that the presidential race is probably going to come down to about a handful of swing states. The data's mixed on whether that really helps or not. I think the ultimate characteristic is how well the VP nominee gels with the presidential candidate, and we really just don't know what that's like behind closed doors. 2 weeks ago, I would have said Shapiro's a no-brainer because Biden was trailing in every poll in every swing state, and Pennsylvania was crucial. But Harris has reset the race, so I think that gives her a little more latitude to pick either Shapiro and Walz, depending on which one she connects better with.
Traditionally, and I don't know, this race, it seems like we've thrown all tradition kind of out the window, but traditionally that VP pick really gives a good jolt to the campaign. What kind of impact do you think, whether it is Walz, it's Shapiro, maybe it's somebody we didn't quite anticipate, what's that do for the Democrats' chances for the White House?
Well, here's the odd thing I think about a VP pick. That's probably not going to win you an election, but it could severely hurt your chances or hurt you at the margins in a close election and ultimately cost you the race. So we saw, for instance, with Trump's pick in J.D. Vance that early on it was well received at the Republican National Convention, but then these people get vetted publicly like you've never seen before, and some comments come out that create controversy, creates a week of negative ads and news for the Trump campaign, and that's a week lost in just a couple months left. So I think what Harris is looking for is someone who will, at minimum, not be a liability in the campaign, will advocate effectively for her case, and hopefully keep things on the track, because so far so good for the Harris campaign, albeit very early.
Something, since you kind of mentioned it, we only got about a minute and a half left. Would there be any chance, and again, we're far from a traditional race anymore, that former President Trump would replace J.D. Vance?
I don't think so. You're right. I mean, all bets are off on everything. It's very hard to predict things in this political climate. But I think, given what we know about Trump as president, as a presidential campaigner, he would probably interpret a change at this point as a sign of weakness, which is something he does not want to cede to Democrats.
How would you say they have done, the Republican ticket and the Republicans, since this dramatic change?
I think it's been challenging. I think Trump's campaign, his entire electoral career, reached its apex so far during the Republican National Convention. Now the race has been reset. Harris has out-fundraised him, has eliminated his lead in the polls, and I think they're trying to find what an effective strategy and message will be for the Trump campaign in the months to come. And we saw just recently injecting race and gender and identity into the attacks on Vice President Harris. I don't think that's going to be effective. I think this race is going to come down to which candidate people think are more competent. And I think that is where this race is going to be won and lost, not over race or gender.
Luke Perry, always appreciate you. Thanks so much, sir. We'll see you soon.
My pleasure.
Luke Perry.